Good afternoon, everyone. We're still here at the majestic Victoria Falls Resort, being hosted by the Chamber of Mines and generously sponsored by Nedbank. Thank you so much. Shout out to our sponsor, Nedbank. We're here with Engineer Tendai Musasa, who was very generous to miss his flight back to Harare. To spend some time with us here. You said something that really piqued my interest. Before we went on air. One of my pet peeves, and I think we've discussed this on the show before, is that we've not really run this experiment where we've created a special economic zone in a place like Vic Falls, where the rules are a little bit different, to see what works and what doesn't work, to raise capital and to do business a little bit differently. And it seems from our discussion ahead of this conversation that actually there is some kind of special economic zone that works in Victoria Falls. So perhaps you could inform our audience exactly what the special economic zone is that works in Victoria Falls, and the role that you play, or how you and your business are trying to take advantage of it.
Perhaps what I'll start by saying is that Victoria Falls, as you know, has been declared an international financial services center, and the ZETA Act allows for private companies like ourselves to apply for special economic zone status, something we have taken advantage of as early as 2018, but we had to brace through the challenges of COVID, which has delayed our eventual flexing of our vision and rollout. But with that as it may, we have come thus far, and we are ready now for this rollout. Just a month ago, we were here in the same venue at Elephant Hills with the 6th edition of the International Renewable Energy Conference as co-sponsors with the government of Zimbabwe and the Ministry of Energy. And the pivot, or the main thrust, is basically to announce that we have come to roll out especially our targeted projects within the Zambezi River Basin. In 2017, we were awarded the Presidential Award for researching how the power generation within the Zambezi River Basin can be optimized. And our being here heralds what we call a testimony of tenacity and a testimony of resilience through the various phases that I said, that includes COVID. But today I'm happy to announce that we have done our financial closure on the initial funding phase to launch our projects. Our projects have been very much publicized in the media, and they include much. The March founded the Zambezi Martin Water Transfer Project ecosystem, for which we have already signed a concession with the government of Zimbabwe to start work on the Gwai-Shangani pipeline and the Greater Matebele and Zambezi Water Transfer Project, which includes in our vision a lot of pumped hydro storage to do with Zambezi, which is actually this ecosystem I'm talking of. How do we maximize the power generation from the Zambezi River Basin? As we are all aware that due to climate change, due to everything, and due to growth in the industry, especially refocus on the Chamber of Mines conference. We know that Zimbabwe is trying to create a $12 billion mining industry, and that means growth, and growth means power requirements. So we want to be prime contributors in that sphere, and we have identified pumped water storage as key to unlocking that excess power, especially starting within this Victoria Falls Special Economic Zone area, which, as you have already alluded to, is it's an attraction to international investors because we are raising capital internationally. We have not been raising capital locally. So the presentation of the Victoria Falls Special Economic Zone, or the greater, what you can call the Greater Victoria Falls Special Economic Zone beyond our own Special Economic Zone, is a catalyst for that kind of capital that I have shared with you. I would not be going to figures at this point, but I think I have shared with you the details. So our
big numbers for sure.
Our thing here is to talk to those big boys who are big power consumers, what is called under the ZERA system bulk power consumers. So we have been talking to various stakeholders in that sphere, so that within the scope of our pumped hydro storage development and solar power, we already are earmarking or focused on certain strategic power purchase agreements with key players in the mining industry that we have been engaging in this conference. Thank you very much. Without much ado, I'll hand over to any questions.
And what kind of capacity are you talking about in terms of this, like the generation capacity, or whether at a minimum, since you are targeting this bulk power users?
We have already been announced in the press of Zimbabwe that we're targeting 500 megawatts of power.
Okay.
But within that 500 megawatt of power, solar power, we, as I said, we are looking at pumped hydro storage as a key component of that development, because we are saying that we are targeting the core development of the Batoka Gorge scheme with river tidal energy and pumped water storage, in the sense that you might understand.
So maybe, sorry, just to stop you there, for the benefit of our audience, maybe if you could just unpack pumped hydro storage. What exactly does that mean? What technology is that? How does it work?
It is a simple technology that is not new, but that is guaranteed to work, in the sense that solar power, wind power are all intermittent sources of power. As you might well understand, solar power, even if you put 500 megawatts of power, you don't have it at night. You don't have it during the rainy season, or during the cloud cover and all those issues. And basically, it's a challenge to grid stability on its own. So when we talk about pumped hydro storage, we are saying that we are utilizing excess of that solar power to pump water from a reliable source of water to a hydro generation facility. Like we are focusing on the Zambezi water system at this current stage, and it acts basically as a battery.
Okay,
in the sense
during
that
the evening,
yes,
you are now using that battery to power.
Yes. In essence, we are transferring water from a reliable source like Zambezi and pumping the water back to the Zambezi, but after having utilized it for power. Yes. So it's one way we are saying that this is the way forward to optimize the power generation with the Zambezi. I was having presentations with the Zambezi River Authority 2 weeks ago, and there is a lot of excitement to that vision, which we have come to say we have arrived to start working and achieving. Thank you.
So just this afternoon, I was having a conversation with some other player in the energy sector, and one issue that they raised was around the pricing. I know that you are targeting the bulk users, as it were, But obviously, one of the big users, obviously, or off-takers could be ZETDC. And, they pay for power in local currency. There you are, maybe raising capital on the international market in USDs. With maybe, if you are to the extent that you are distributing that power to ZETDC, it means you're going to be paid in a ZIG partly. I know with the miners and other bigger players, it could be USDs. Have you anticipated that in your model, and how does that affect the profitability or the sustainability of the project that you are trying to do? The issue of pricing and the currency.
ZETDC is a national player basically in the distribution and delivery of power within the Southern African Power Pool framework.
Okay.
So we are coming into this arena under the ambit of Southern African Power Pool.
Okay.
So we are looking at ZETDC as our peer partner in this delivery of power.
Okay.
And because we have raised funds on international platform, we don't see. We are here to complement growth, and we see ZETDC and this infrastructure as a strategic partner.
Okay.
That also attends to the needs of the internal needs of the country, which are massive in any case. And when you look at developments like Manize, the steel power plant and all those things, of which we are hearing a whole lot of developments in the power sector, we think there is enough room for all players of different interests and different focus. And I look at ZETDC and the Zimbabwe Power Company primary mandate being to take care of the domestic demand of the country. And I look at players as ourselves being the additional economic growth drivers.
Okay.
So my view to that is that the power demand outstrips the challenges of pricing that we are talking about, and there should be accommodation for international investment like ourselves, because like I said, we are focused on the US dollar.
So we're capital market players in our other life, away from having drinks and this show. And one of the things that we find quite challenging in that space is actually raising money in global capital markets. Zimbabwe there's this perception about our risk return profile that is not flattering, that makes it extremely difficult to raise meaningful amounts of money outside our country. And yet you've managed to raise a bunch of money for a project in Zimbabwe. So maybe for the benefit of our audience, and even just for me and Ranga, how are you able to do that? What do you if you were to attribute your success to the particular way that you might have sold your projects in Zimbabwe and mitigated this negative perception, are you able to share with us?
Like I said, it has been a long journey, and also coupled with the challenges of COVID as well. But the whole idea of Victoria Falls as an international financial center, we have latched onto that as a de-risking platform for what Zimbabwe has presented is what called any historical And also, as my brother was asking me, navigated the risk of local currency by saying we want to trade our power within the ambit of Southern African Power Pool. What Southern African Power Pool provides is that you have a wider market de-risking mechanism where at the end of the day the power goes to the highest bidder in US dollars. And the challenge therefore arises when you are raising capital that most capital funders want to have existing power purchase agreements, but we have managed to, for the benefit of anyone in that field, we have managed to convince our international funders that it is better to work under the ambit of the SADC Power Pool Protocol, which does not guarantee what you call a power purchase agreement for 25 years, but then it has got a historical performance that can be trusted and is in basically on the greenback, and then it's in the long term the de-risking of our risk versus the guarantee of the greenback that is offered by the SADC Power Pool, which for argument's sake is headquartered in Harare, and they will be setting some trade platforms in Mauritius. But be that as it may, Zimbabwe is part of that ecosystem very strongly within that SADC framework. So it's very easy actually to get those support from SAPP and all these things, and it dovetails to the whole vision of regional integration anyway. There has to be some de-risking mechanism. One has to employ as you go to the international market. It is difficult, admittedly, to go it out as Zimbabwe. But when one approaches it from a regional perspective and uses SAPP with its headquarters here in Zimbabwe stands for, in the long run, the region benefits, Zimbabwe benefits. Thank you.
So what's your view on fossils? So before President Trump, there was this push towards renewable energy because of the green revolution. President Trump believes in, if you've got coal, burn it, generate more energy. And we seem to have a lot of it. I think I've been a player in the market for some time now. From day one, I've been hearing about the Sengwa coal resources and so many of these.
Gas.
Yeah, and some of these things. I know you are into renewable, but given our serious power shortages, isn't there a scope for, alongside the renewable, to ramp up on fossils, especially in this environment where the attitude is sort of changed from being negative to being more accommodative?
First of all, I'm not a politician.
Okay.
I'm an engineer.
Okay.
And I will tackle the question basically from a scientific point of view. Both on a scientific and a socio-economic framework. We are clear that the science says a lot of climate change has been contributed to by the industrialization of especially not coming from Africa in any case.
Yeah, the West, for sure.
Yeah, but we are at the receiving end of that with the climate change impacts and the need for climate change mitigation cannot be overstated. And the need for our participation in that cannot also not be overstated. Because if a snake is in the house, you cannot ignore that the snake is in the house. And also by reverse analogy, you don't burn the house to kill a snake. So by that I'm saying there has to be what you call an allowance to allow industrializing countries in third world countries like Zimbabwe to have a fair utilization of their resources, or at least a mechanism that is compensatory for them to develop those kind of renewable energy resources. And of course, gas has been proven that is much more
Cleaner than coal, yeah, for sure.
Yes. And during the energy conference that we had a month or two ago here in this same place, there was one of the resolutions of the conference was that the people who are involved in coking, they must be using that sign gas for power as well, which is actually a measure to decarbonize the whole industry. Because as you pass through Wanke, you'll just find a lot of flames going into the air. That's energy, which can be converted to electricity. So one of the resolutions of the conference, energy conference, was that energy must not be let to go to waste. So there has to be a cleaning process, but also an evolutionary mechanism to move towards clean energy. The movement towards clean energy must not be compromised by anyone. But the what you call the voluntary UNFCCC goals and everything must be funded for developing countries. We cannot pretend to say developing countries need those resources. So when there is a de-escalation of funding, obviously we are left in a quandary and of promoting jobs and industrial growth, and that at some point somebody must take responsibility. But the movement towards clean energy cannot be overemphasized.
Engineer Tendai, it's such a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for missing your flight. We have a studio in Harare. We're fascinated by this special economic zone in Victoria Falls and its potential, and in particular what you're doing. I'm sure that at some date in the future you'll be at liberty to disclose the numbers and some of the more granular details of the project that you're driving, which I find absolutely fascinating, and I think our audience will agree with me that so thank you so much for doing this, and we hope to spend some time with you in our studio in Harare at some future date. This was a pleasure, and I hope the audience enjoyed this as much as we did.
Why not
Cheers.
getting a studio also in Vic Falls?
Oh, this is our studio, yeah.
I like the idea.